Thank you for that, brother. Shalom. Hope everyone can hear me. Yeah. I'm not the most outspoken like the rest of the speakers, so I'm gonna just try and do the best that I can. I'm gonna give a slight breakdown on my background first before we get into the topic of the day, the status correction and the sovereignty, just to show you how I got into it and the things that inspired me to get to where I am now. So, like the brother Antoine, I started off in the darkness as well. We all got a past, but I did come into what I call the consciousness movement first. So, I saw the different, what I call schools of thought. You got your Hebrew Israelites, your Moors, your indigenous, all these different ones. And it was truth everywhere I found it. But when it came to remedy right now, doing things right now that would help and benefit us, tangible things right now, it was always the Moors. Law would always come up, certain things. And throughout all these movements, we hear about certain things. It's legendary type of stuff that we hear in law that we like, can't none of that stuff really be done. So, in dealing with Moors, I would hear, all of this, all of that, the most, and I was like, okay, they're doing everything. So, this was early 2010s, 2012, around that time, I know for sure I was into the Moors and all that information, but I hadn't really went all the way in. So, around the time of the incident with our brother Mike Brown, I'm pretty sure y'all all remember, there was another brother, he didn't make as much news, that also got killed by the police. His name was Mansur Barbay.
Yes,
yeah. Some people know. So, Fez Wayne brother, member of the temple. And the family, they went to the Grand Sheik for the answers, for the remedy, to say, what do we do? And they told him to get a lawyer, and it turns out they never got justice. I never really understood what happened. It took me months and months. I searched around through Facebook, through different groups and all of that. When I found out the story, I was like, oh crap. Because when I saw, there was a Moor, Fez wearing Moor, member of a temple, I was like, man, the Moors finna come out and they finna slay the government for this one. I was expecting Taj and everybody to line up down the block, everybody to come out. And when it didn't happen, I was like, oh, I got to see what's going on. So that inspired me to really get into my own study. So, like the brother Antoine Bay out here. It's all right. I couldn't find a temple for hundreds of miles, not even in Texas. Nowhere around. So I got to studying on my own, learning, little things, a lot that I could do for myself. Bumped into a temple out here, and the Grand Sheik there, this was a couple years later. The Grand Sheik there, they had just really got started, but they didn't know law, and they weren't even invited about law, and I know some of y'all that have experienced this dealing with Moors, where we talk about certain things when it comes to law, sovereignty, status correction, and they're just like, nah, they pushing that away, And I understand, the faith side of it. I'm with the prophet more than probably most Moors that actually do teach paperwork. I'm known as the paperwork Moor to some people. So the brother Hellraiser getting up there, he killed it. I don't know how I can come behind that, really. But basically, when it comes to law, status correction, and the things that I learned, we take it from the beginning, the brother Hellraiser. It starts off, as a baby with us in this country. With that birth certificate, that's our original contract. They mislabeled us, Negro, black, or colored, depending on what decade you're born in. Your mother, she signs off as the informant. Basically, she done snitched on you. And they're making you a debtor to a debt that the United States agreed to take on, that we didn't agree to take on. Matter of fact, they agreed to repay the debt of all the citizens. This goes back to 1933 when they got rid of the gold. They said, we're going to discharge everything dollar for dollar, but they never told us how. That's one of the things I found, but before I get into that, I got to get into the overall remedy for everything, and that's nationality. Because everyone in this movement, not just Moors, the Europeans, anybody that they call in sovereign citizens, that sovereignty word, that's a taboo word, but it's actual truth. Now, like our brother Kenneth said, sovereignty comes in a couple different ways, but in general, it's us raising up someone to that sovereign level. Basically, electing someone amongst us, our people, to the government, or to work for us in government, to be that public person for us while we stay in the private. So that gets into the public and private when it comes to status correction as well. And like I said, the answer is nationality. So we must go back to our ancient nationality as the answer is what I found. So before we were Negro, black, and colored, before slavery, anybody that they consider black, we were Moors before then. Our Moorish empire, we had several countries that had jurisdiction over most of the world. Morocco was a superpower, was the superpower, like the United States is now today. And there was this little country, England, trying to get their way up. They broke off, when they came over here. And to become a country, you have to be recognized by another country. You can't just declare yourself independent like the Declaration of Independence. So they had to have allies, and their allies at that time were Morocco and the Moorish Empire, Morocco, Tripoli, Tunis, Algiers. So all of these jurisdictions, these sovereign nations recognize the people of the United States to say, okay, y'all can be a country and a government too. We'll recognize y'all as part of us and as part of the nations of the world. And at that time, anybody that looked like us around the world, we would have been considered a Moor. So by us just saying that we're Moorish American, we're tying ourselves back to that ancient nationality. So we're removing ourselves essentially from their jurisdiction that they create, because we already have one, and it's been recognized in international law. So I'm not sure how many of y'all know about the story of Noble Drew Ali, 1928. He went to the Pan American Conference. This was a precursor to what is the UN now. So when the UN talks about diplomatic status and recognizing people as having nationality and ancient nationality, they all refer back to that 1928 conference where the prophet went and put our nationality on the record. So when he said, we are a nation, it was true. And we have our own jurisdiction right here on this land. So to start with that goes back to our babies now, and their birth certificate. So the name on there is tainted. They put it in all caps, and that is a legal disability. So when we talk about status correction, what are we correcting? What status is it that they're putting us in? They're putting us in the status of a minor, not an adult. So we are correcting that by competently claiming who we are, what our status is. So when we talk about status correction, we should be teaching this to our babies at 18. This is what they should be learning to do at 18. They should be, at that point, proclaiming their nationality. And then going after all of these contracts, like the brother Hellraiser said, starting off with the birth certificate, social securities, and any other thing you may have. Correcting those. And that starts off with the name. So Noble Drew Ali said, affix your L or your Bay. We got to have a free national name. Now, in the Moorish Empire, we had a few more Moorish names than just the L, the Bay, the Alis and all those. So I recognize all, national names. So we'll have brothers that come to me from different walks. They'll have an X or a Shabazz or Farrakhan or something like that. Come on, y'all my brothers. Y'all are Moors too. That's a free national name. That's not European. So we just need to fix your paperwork and bring y'all over to our jurisdiction. So public and private now. There are different ways of going about it. Some people have to work in the public dealing with their commerce. These are people more that are like lawyers, judges, people that have strict government jobs where you're going to do more background checks, more extreme background checks. For those people, I recommend a more public process, doing a court order name change. But you also have to throw in your affidavit of nationality and give the reason why, stating that you're proclaiming your nationality. But there's another portion of it, and this goes to the private too. When you proclaim your nationality, doing your name change affidavit, nationality affidavit, part of it is going back to that original contract, the birth certificate, it makes you a citizen of their nation, not ours, which is incorrect. So part of that is expatriation and proclaiming our nationality. Not only are we telling them what nation we are a part of, we're telling them, no, we're not even a part of that. You know, we were never really a part of that. And that was a mistake. So when it comes down to law, we can make that separation. And by having it on nationality affidavit that you file, or even court order name change, you know, you do it public or private, you're able to use that as evidence in court for what they call diversity of jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. So when you have two people of different nationalities that have a claim against each other, or one has a claim against the other, it's only certain courts that can actually handle that. You know, and we're supposed to be dealing with these things in a higher federal court, but it starts all the way down at the bottom, at the very beginning, correcting our status, or correcting that minor status, showing them, hey, we're competent, you know, we're adults and we're able to handle our affairs. But also, sovereignty is not an individual thing. Status correction, therefore, can't be an individual thing. So we have to correct things as a nation as well. So that starts with government. Now, the lowest form of government right now that's being operational on this land that we can take control of will be, believe it or not, homeowners associations. And that starts off with getting land, like we've already been talking about, having our own land, allodial land, building up our own communities, starting our own local governments that way. And another thing, I've never said this one publicly. Some of y'all may be familiar with the brother Lord Abba, as an old Moor that he don't even claim he a Moor no more. But one thing he said years ago is that we need the Moorish American Party. We need our own political party. So political parties have a few different bodies in them. It's the elected people, the ones that we elect up to be our sovereigns, to be our leaders. It is the people that are working to be elected, but then it's the body of the people as well. The people that are supporting these politicians, putting them into place. So we start off from this bottom level, individually getting our statuses corrected. So you have adults, people that are of the age of majority, that are able to vote someone in and be competent about it and have someone to represent them in the community properly. So you can start it off, you know, homeowners association, communities like that, until we can get our own city. Because we're not to that point yet. A lot of people want to, in this movement, be private. They want to drop off the map, don't use no IDs, no this, no that, don't talk to no police, nothing. And right now, it's not a reasonable thing to do, because we don't have our own allodial land where we have everything going, and we have our resources where you don't have to travel off of that land to get your resources. So until then, we need a little bit of both public and private status correction, because we're going to need people to go and get resources for our communities, even if we have people that's going to stay on our land and never leave. And the thing is, starting off with any amount of land, any amount of property, communities, you can always expand. So communities start off becoming unincorporated cities. As more and more land comes around, what they do is they annex that land. They grab it, take it, pull it under the same jurisdiction. So technically, we could do this if we had a community of people right now. We need people that own their land to say, hey, we want it to be all a part of this community, join it together, start, you know, homeowners association, start off. Don't even start off with the city. Don't let them know what we're doing. You know, we're just trying to start a new community for right now. You know, but correct this generationally. Learn how to pass down an allodial title. See, we learned about land and passing things down from the European perspective. You know, you got to have a will to pass everything down to your children. But on the allodial side, as a king, you can only pass allodial land to one person. So if you have multiple children, you got to realize, okay, this one is the responsible one that can handle this, you know, and pass it on to them. So that person is the one that manages the kingdom. That's what kings do. And this is why, you know, in our elder ages, people was fighting over that position. You know, they was killing their brothers and sisters trying to get that. But we got to get back into that mindset of this is really how you hold wealth and pass it on. This is why we did it in the first place. You know, so individually and collectively, we need to be working together to correct our statuses, to raise our sovereignty level, because that's really all it is. We have sovereign jurisdiction. All of these things that we talk about have been recognized on paper. What we don't have is enough brothers and enough sisters that are competent in law that can go articulate this outside of these type of situations. So when you put in a piece of paperwork to a courtroom and it works, you know, a motion, affidavit or whatever, and it go and you get that remedy, you know, as opposed to people, forgive my language, throwing shit against the wall trying to see what's gonna stick. I done a lot of that, you know. I'm sure, you know, some of y'all have too. But, you know, we're past that, you know, and like the brother Antoine Bay said, I brought out, you know, some law books, all kind of stuff, because I didn't know where I was gonna go with it. You know, so one of my famous teachings, or not teachings, but sayings from my YouTube is private process is the difference between getting private remedy and making a news. I saw too many Moors when I was coming up in the 2010s, Moorish services and squats on $1 million mansion, you know, and not, you know, dudes locked up doing, you know, however many years for crazy stuff like that. You know, and I knew coming into the movement, like, yeah, this stuff there's legal ways of doing this, right? It's gotta be some ways of doing this. So that was the kind of things that I looked into. So, you know, I'm all about doing things proper procedure. Even though we are Moors and we have our ways of doing things, when it comes to law, there's rules of chess, basically. So that would be like the Code of Criminal Procedure, Code of Civil Procedure, the Civil Forms book and things like that, that are the chess moves that they move, how they move the pieces. So when we come into their courtrooms, we're trying to correct our status, or we're trying to get remedy for, you know, some charge that's been put on us incorrectly. We have to use their chess moves. Even though we have our own piece, we got to know how to move it in their world. You know, and when we learn how to do that properly as a team, not just individually, but collectively, that's when we're really going to get to the level that we're trying to get to. And that's my piece.
Islam.